Hey folks, welcome back to the SuperRockBoi videocast, where alongside ElRockBoi, I am Corey Superhuman 581, and we are here to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 3. ElRockBoi, how you doing, man?
Womp womp. I'm doing all right.
Oh man, no, man, if I could add a few womps on top of that, but that's all right. We are here to talk about the exciting Falcon and Winter Soldier, so that is definitely a thumbs up, right? So
Mhm.
that's going to get us kind of amped, man, and yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. I know for me, this series has been really good so far, in my opinion. I love the Winter Soldier. I love the aesthetic. I love the action. I love the Henry Jackman soundtrack.
Mhm.
And I'm glad they brought him back for this series. So I'm loving this series. I'm loving the two of them teaming up. I love their dynamic. And yeah, man, how are you feeling about this series so far?
So far for me, I didn't get to see WandaVision, right? So Falcon and the Winter Soldier is my first foray into these Disney Plus series that they got going on. And it felt like it was a bit slow for me, especially,
Mm,
for the past two episodes. And I know we're going to talk about the third one. But
yeah.
the whole story around the Shield and Cap, and now we're focusing on Sam and his journey as a superhero and without the suit on. You know what I mean? And it was so incredible, even just thinking about these people are human, right? These people have lives that they live. That's not just about save the world. And as we dive a bit deeper, which is great, we learn a little bit more. And of course some of it strays from the original source material, but again, I think the creative freedom that we see with these episodes as we learn more and get to the end of this, even the series, like it's gonna be really an interesting ride, especially for Bucky. Especially.
Yeah. And just to bring it back for a second, since we're talking about episode 3, but in terms of the series and kind of bringing people into that, this is our first review discussion episode regarding the Falcon and Winter Soldier. One thing I'm finding interesting, and to your point about the slowness, is that the focus on the humanity of everything, right? A lot of times the movies are focusing on people, beating people up, superpowers, and doing their thing. And while you have that, the first two episodes focused a lot more on just what life is like post reblip, blip back in, unblippening,
Yes.
and just how it is from a governmental, societal, etc. standpoint, right? And how this has affected people's lives, and certainly how it's you know, kind of tied into the current climate of things. Let's be honest, from a social justice standpoint, right?
Mhm.
Mixing in a lot of current issues into how life is still going post blip, post whatever, right?
Mhm. Definitely, man. It's so interesting around this whole concept of the blip, right? And I remember
Mm,
when Spider-Man Far From Home came out, and they talked about it from their vantage point in high school, and now we see
yeah,
it from the vantage point of the world, right? And these different
yeah,
countries, and just kind of how the role that the flag smashers play in this series. And it, man, the title of this episode is Power Broker, right? And I'm like, who is a power broker? Like, I was expecting to kind of learn that, and they sprinkle things, and you can like
hmm
run wild with the imagination, but
yeah,
it was exciting to kind of see them really interacting with, especially some of the characters that we saw in all the movies and stuff. So yeah, definitely
hmm
as a episode, it really started off pretty well, especially now intertwining, Zemo in the whole thing. So it's cool.
yeah. Yeah. I'm glad they brought back Zemo, and certainly when we move on to another thing from Marvel that dropped
Mhm.
in the past couple of days, we'll talk a little bit more about that and my hopes for Zemo there. But yeah, I was the moment this episode started, and it was like they got to talk to Zemo, and just the banter between Bucky and Zemo, and when it finally became revealed that yeah, I'm Baron, Baron Zemo. I'm a Baron, right? And I'm rich. And it's like, what? You're rich? And I'm like, yes, finally, we get to see that. And then when he was like, we're going to Madripoor. And I was like, yes,
Mhm.
Madripoor, right?
Yep.
And so I'm not sure if you remember the Jim Lee,
Mhm.
X-Men Arts Edition video that I did,
Mhm.
but that cover X-Men 268, I think it is,
Mhm.
right, with Captain America and Black Widow and Wolverine, right, and that issue takes place in Madripoor,
Mm.
this lawless place, right. And so when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, this is so awesome! How they're bringing in more of the universe."
Mhm.
And to your point, getting to see some of the other characters, particularly, of course, Sharon Carter, right?
Mhm.
And to the statement I was making earlier about how the whole humanity of everything, right? You heard all the Avengers came back, everybody was pardoned or whatever, and people went separate ways, and fairy tale ending, everybody, Cinderella, right?
Mhm.
But for Sharon Carter, it's like, no, I'm still an enemy of the state. Post Captain America Civil War,
Yep.
and I'm sitting up here now, and I'm like this, art dealer, arms dealer, whatever. I think it was just art, right? But I'm this black market person,
Or is she
over
the power
here.
broker? Sorry, go ahead.
Or is she the power broker? That would be interesting.
Yes.
But yeah, man. It was really good for them to flash all that stuff up and for us to see it. And there was one part or one thing at the end where I knew something was coming, and I guessed it right, like exactly right. And
Hmm.
I'm not sure if we want to get there just yet.
Yes, yes.
But you let me know if we're ready to go there, and then I'll go there. But
Uh-huh.
I was so excited, like I mean, clap my hands. I was like, yes, yes, yes. I was like, I knew it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, man, it's really good, and it's really great to see again how they're dealing with the world. In addition to doing the whole, usual Winter Soldier, you know, uh, uh, Anthony, Joe Russo action, stuff
Mhm.
that we saw in the Winter Soldier movie, and that Henry Jackman, score, all that stuff, all that, espionage, intrigue, action, but at the same time, that buddy cop kind of motif.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're wrapping up some things and give you some more insight to what the world is really like now. Instead of it being just, yeah, we're just going on more adventures. It's like, nah, this is affecting people too, and these people haven't had the clean, clear, fantastic, great lives you probably expect them to post blip, post re blip, unblip, whatever.
But this is the thing I like, right?
Hmm.
The gravity of the collateral damage, right? I think
Yeah,
and I always go back to Spider-Man because it's one of my favorite movies, comics, or stories. And in the movies for Spider-Man, the recent ones, you see the effects of the destruction that New York takes on, right? In
hmm,
the various different companies that come up and try to do the cleanups and then use the weapons, X, Y, Z. And in this, we get to see the human side of it, right?
hmm,
Around the Flag Smasher group, what they're really trying to do, right? Bring the
yeah,
medicine and things to others who in need. And Sharon Carter, right? I
yeah,
was super surprised to kind of see her pop up in this way, right? Because I've always been curious about her character, especially from the Captain America movies to now. And it's
yeah,
good to have her in this position. I mean, we get all the regular elements of her, but there's mystery there, which is really
yeah,
intriguing, especially because
yeah,
she was kind of that guardian angel throughout the beginning
hmm,
of the episode, protecting them because yeah, they were in a pretty lawless place trying to
right,
navigate,
right.
right? And of course things went wrong when Anthony Mackie's character answered the phone to talk to his sister.
That was great. That was so good.
Definitely, man, definitely, because she wasn't even getting it, and he was trying to lay it on thick. And then,
Yeah.
of course, her kids on the phone. So she called his actual name, and then
Put down the Cheerios. Or I told you to eat the Cheerios, something like that about Cheerios.
yep, it's one of those things when you're like, these things aren't perfect, and
Right.
to see them have these hiccups because sometimes superheroes in movies or series or shows can be portrayed so flawlessly. And you're like,
Mhm.
oh man,
Mhm.
they don't have bad days or they don't have mishaps because you would think you going into a meeting like this, you're pretending to be someone else, you would
Yeah.
silence your phone. But that wasn't the case, right? So
Yeah.
they try to navigate that situation. I really thought in those situations there in the club, and then when they went upstairs, that Bucky would have broken out of character, but he held it together. He
Yeah.
held it together. I think Sam was the
Yeah.
one who seemed like he had the most like unease or was going to break out of character for.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, because he was supposed to be what, Smiling Tiger or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Hmm.
And he was like, "Man, he really does look like me." And then I guess I can't remember. I'm not sure if it was like the snakes gallbladder
Yo.
or whatever it was.
Mhm,
And he's like my favorite. He had to drink it. It's like, he played that pretty well. But yeah,
mhm,
it's funny to see that Falcon is the one who's like the fish out of water.
mhm.
Whereas Winter Soldier's like, this I'm used to this. I've been here before. And of course Zemo's like, of course, yeah, I vacation here, right? I take a weekend here, right?
Mhm,
And so yeah, it was really interesting. One thing that was cool that I think you brought up is the flag smashers, right? And we get to see over time this sense of their humanity and their cause. So they're not just like villains where it's like, oh man, they suck. They're trying to, undo what's been fixed as a result of the Avengers doing what they did in Endgame, right? But you get a bit of sympathy so you can realize that one, there's people in camps, people
mhm,
being displaced, treated unfairly, not being given the resources they need, food, water, etc.
mhm,
Money if it's that was need, or other kinds of social services, right? But also there's a sense that when the world was blipped, like it destabilized things so much that it actually removed maybe some key infrastructure, systemic issues, people who are actually a detriment to the well-being or welfare of society. And they're like, no, we need to undo the fix that was done because there was more, I guess, maybe fairness,
mhm.
resources, availability, social welfare was possibly better in some way, before everybody came back. And now the governments aren't really you know, uh, the people who have come back very well. So I think it's very interesting how they've spun that, because they could have very easily just made them just a very shallow villain or shallow villainous organization. They just want things to go back to the way they were, but they really wrapped it around a lot of humanity. So I think that's really, really cool. And I'm very interested to see how their paths cross with all the Super Soldier Serum talk, and what kind of position are Falcon and Bucky. I'm just gonna say Bucky instead of Winter Soldier so
Mhm.
much, but Bucky gonna take right when they finally start to understand their challenges, their issues, and how's that gonna play into the dynamics of the show?
So let me say this though. When I think it was in the prior episode, Sam was like, "You went to Wakanda, you came back White Panther," and he was like, "No, White Wolf." I was like, "Okay, okay, okay." So that
Hmm.
they referencing these things, and I think once we get to the end of the episode, we can talk about what happened there too. But
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it was it's so interesting when you see the connective tissue of the movies kind of pop up, right? Because they're all living in the same universe, right? You don't get that
right.
confused or twisted at all, which is great. I mean, I know we're not going to see
Hmm.
that, you know, Doctor Strange fly by in a screen because that make no sense. But definitely the things
Right.
that get sprinkled today. The one thing I'll say is that the Flag Smashers, I get it. Right? They have a cause, they want to pursue it. But when they blew up the car
Yeah.
right outside of that building after they took some of those
Hmm.
supplies, I was just like,
Hmm.
okay, they're ratcheting it up, and I
Exactly.
get it. I get it. Right? Sometimes people doesn't understand violence unless you do violence
Yeah.
to them, right? But
Yeah.
it's tough because the perspective can always shift and paint you as
Hmm.
the villain or whatever narrative someone can create.
Hmm. Yeah, I think to your point, because it's funny, I think there's going to be a similar angle with Captain America, new Cap, John Walker Cap, right?
Hmm.
Or future U.S. agent, right? Is that he's like this true justice American way. Hey, I'm just a guy who's lucky to be doing this, blah blah blah. But at some point, his desire for uh, success in the mission, power, authority is going to push him to do kind of like what the Flag Smashers did, right? Something over the line, and then it's going to be no coming back from that. And that's how he's going to have his villainous arc whenever that starts to happen.
When
Well, I would
that
say villainous. U.S. agent is really a villain, but he's going to go too far.
when that the guy for the cafe that let the Flag Smasher group kind of stay in his place,
Yeah.
when new Captain America, John Walker, and Hoskins got in there and the guy spit in the guy for the cafe spit in John Walker's face, I was like,
Hmm.
oh man, is he gonna just like, do this man in? But he didn't, and but you could see it
Hmm.
boiling for him
Yeah.
as a character,
Exactly.
especially when they were facing off in the prior episodes against the Flag Smasher group for the first time. And
Yeah.
and for me, the introduction of this character, right, as a new Captain America, He doesn't have
Hmm.
superhuman strength or the serum, and I'm just like, is he out of his element? And even Hoskins, right? The
Hmm.
regular the regular black guy that's
Yeah.
as his partner with him. There's so there's a
Yeah.
similarity to Steve and Sam. When they first was partnered up and they were working together, and I was like, wow, what an interesting dynamic. And I don't see why U.S. Agent or New Captain America, Bucky and Sam just can't all work together. But I guess they feel like he's too green, or it's
Yeah.
just not. They rather just be free and less accountable. But I think what was said in a prior episode too was that Sam is using technology that was given to him via the US government. So he's
Hmm.
even though he feels that he's a free agent and he can move around in the world, aid and support Zemo and partner with him, you're still kind of connected there, right?
Right.
Bucky, on the other hand, he got pardoned, so he could definitely be a bit more freer with it. So
Yeah.
it's such an interesting line, and I see where you're coming from when you said he was out of water because there's a special line that he has to toe, especially because when he was talking to his sister in prior episodes about the contracts and the money and the and all and just the legitimacy of what he's doing and how he can
Yeah.
potentially support others and stuff like that. It's a very very fine line.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and that's been interesting too, because Bucky gets to be, like you said, kind of like the loose cannon now, right, with no obligations to anyone, um, and again, Falcon's got his obligations, but I think um, that's kind of interesting because now you've got John Walker and Battlestar,
Mhm,
or Hoskins.
mhm.
Jamal, is it Jamal Hoskins? Is his first name Jamal? I can't remember what his first name is. I feel like that I shouldn't have used Jamal. Like that could be generic for a black guy or something. But I think it is Jamal Hoskins though. But I could be wrong. But but no, they've got to toe that line, right? And they're starting to feel that pressure of, like, we need to start doing more. Like,
Mhm.
we need to be a little bit more extreme. We need to get more results, right? And Falcon and Winter Soldier are already doing that mess, right? Falcon and Bucky are already doing that. They're already like, we're just trying to get results. And so, and you could clearly see, Falcon and Bucky are going to be the ones who are going to stay on the side of good, right? And John Walker may cross that line a little bit. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that happens. You guys have something to say real quick? Might have to
Yeah. So
switch.
when the new Captain America, John Walker and Hoskins pulled up in the GRC van,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Uh, when I think about it, I'm just like, is this organization attached to the United States, or is it pretty
Yeah.
much truly a global organization like the United Nations of some sort, right? I think there's a
Hmm.
lot there we need to still figure out in
Yeah.
regards to that. And I think too, the new Captain America, he's very much trying to figure this out. And I think, like we've seen, he doesn't know how to actually solve this situation, right? He's
Yeah.
tracking Sam. Right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
definitely they're like steps behind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think they're gonna try to figure out possibly how to get ahead or be on the same
Hmm.
footing because Bucky and Sam definitely aren't willing to support them because I think one of the interesting things that came up in the episode was around whether they should have destroyed the shield or putting it in a museum was the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting discussion for them to have had, right? Because Bucky feels like he could have taken the shield if Sam really didn't want it,
Right.
right? But they never
Yeah.
really had that discussion, and
Hmm.
go figure, right? Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, man, for sure. And that's I can't wait for that awakening because Sam Wilson as Captain America was not only really good from a just a comic aesthetic standpoint, but also enabled an icon like Captain America to be kind of intertwined a lot more with societal issues, like
Hmm.
again, civil social justice, right, and things like that. Because Sam Wilson being a black man, right? So
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to seeing Sam Wilson assume that mantle, or feel confident in assuming that mantle at some point. Um,
I mean, do you think they're
the
actually going to do that? Because here's the thing, right?
Yeah,
Where I was surprised. Movies are inspired by and somewhat follow a specific line, but then they
Yeah,
are allowed some level of creative freedom. So would
yeah.
you be disappointed if Bucky becomes Captain America?
I wouldn't be disappointed. No, I mean, he's wielded the shield before in the comics or whatever. I being logical and knowing that there's like 3 episodes left, or 4 or something like that episodes
Mhm.
left. Something's going to happen if Falcon takes the shield. It's going to be something that happens like as a result of John Walker crosses the line to lose it, and Falcon picks it up somewhere like on a battlefield. It's not going to be like a federally sanctioned thing that when it happens, the series may end with a federally sanctioned thing where it's like, oh yes, you're the new Cap right now, Falcon or whatever,
Mhm.
right? But I don't think that's how it'll happen this year. I think it'll be a moment where he picks up the shield, a la as if the shield was Mjolnir or something, right? Like it was Thor's hammer or something,
Mhm.
and he'll take it and he'll say, I'm gonna, represent this icon, I'm gonna do this thing with it, and I'm gonna, wield it. Just to give us that feeling of, oh, Sam Wilson, Captain America, right? But I wouldn't be disappointed in Bucky being Cap. I got a feeling they're gonna find a creative way to not have either one of them be Cap
Mm.
at the end of the day. I feel like that Shield's going to go back in the museum at the end of all this, but I
Okay.
think we're going to get a glimpse into uh, Falcon being Cap and wielding the shield.
You know, I get that. And what's so interesting is that the Patriot, right? I think I am Patriot. When we saw War Machine and his suit when it was, had the star and everything on it.
Yeah.
So they can symbolize that Americanness, or the symbol that Captain Falcon represents with that, if they wanted to revisit that, if they don't want to put somebody else as the Captain America, right?
Hmm.
So I think your whole assumption or prediction of the shield going back into the museum as part of the story of what Captain America represents, that's not bad, right? But then it makes you ask the question around the future of this character, and in the future Avenger movies or anything else that they end up doing. But again, I think there's so many new characters that they're considering adopting here. I look at Bucky and Falcon as the prior generation, right? And
Hmm.
hopefully in this series as well, we discover somebody new or something new, right? Because even when you think back at WandaVision, Monica Rambeau was the new thing that we kind of saw there, right? I mean, minus White Vision and all the other things, but like,
Mm,
what, it was someone
we,
else?
no, we saw her kind of. Maybe Captain Marvel 2 we'll see more.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no, I completely understand. I completely understand. But no, the next 3 episodes I think will be really interesting to see how this story concludes, or even gets to a climactic point where we can definitely identify a lot of the mysteries that's not solved. Who truly is a power
Yeah,
broker? What is Sharon Carter really doing? And where will the shield end up? Is it in a
yeah,
museum? Is it
yeah,
destroyed? Does Bucky steal it and
yeah.
go back to Russia with it? Who knows?
I don't know. It just feels interesting, and by interesting I mean maybe weird, to have Bucky, who's got a laundry list of things that he's done wrong that are public, right? To be the person who's the icon for America, right? I don't see them allowing that, like as a government, That's why I don't know. Real quick before I switch topics though, Sharon Carter. So you think at any point Sharon still hasn't realized that, like, great uncle Steve was Steve. Yet I just wonder. She's like, I can't talk to my family. I'm like, yeah, you can't talk to great uncle Steve or whatever his name is. You know, it's like it never occurred to you, like, wait a second, you you look kind of like Joe Biden, but you also look like Steve Rogers a little bit, right?
It's a
It's like,
different no, but it's a different timeline. Remember, you know, Captain America went back in time, then somehow he got back into the present, and he was older. So it was a different timeline because they didn't screw everybody up. So
really, I thought he actually lived along this particular timeline. Because that's how do you get back then? Like, how did he come back to?
it wasn't so you make. we could do a whole episode on that. We could do a whole episode on that. But I guess she feels alone, right? And I think sometimes
Mhm.
when you're off doing your own thing, you bury your head so far down in this rabbit hole of commit that
Right.
she doesn't realize that. Sorry, she doesn't realize that Steve might still be out there to communicate with. Because I mean, everybody's spinning him as he's dead or he passed away or he's no longer
Right.
accessible.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, I can see that. I kind of joke. I figured there's some degree of comic book. Hey, she's not associating that guy could possibly be an older version because what reason would she have to even think of that, right? She doesn't know he went back in time.
Hmm.
So, but it's still funny to me where it's like you don't seem to think that guy looks a little familiar. But not so. There was one thing about the show
Hmm.
I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of, and it's the Super Soldier Serum,
Mm,
right? Because in the comics, it is this vaunted thing where it's, hey, um, it was created and only two serums were really ever made, right? It was the one that got the Red Skull and then the one that was given to Captain America, and the one that was Captain America was like perfected. And everything else since then has been like a derivative, right? And of course, it's all started with like the Weapons Plus program, which created Wolverine and Deadpool
hmm.
and so many other things, Luke Cage, Isaiah Bradley, all that good stuff, right? But it's like when Erskine did it, it was like Erskine did it to Captain America. It was like the perfect serum.
Hmm.
And then, Bucky got like an offshoot, so he lives longer, he's stronger, but he's not Cap,
Hmm.
right? And other people have gotten it. And in this MCU incarnation, right? It's like, okay, we had Super Soldier Serum, and you were thinking, okay, it's just derivative of Bucky, and that's cool. Or rather, you would think it's along the same lines as Bucky, but it's kind of like it's a derivative of Isaiah Bradley, I guess, because they got his blood and they've been working with it.
Hmm.
Hydra's been working with it, right? And it's like, okay, so now we got the Flag Smashers with the serum. We've got this other dude making the serum and claiming that it's like better than the original, right? And I'm like, okay, I feel like we kind of undermine the uniqueness of Cap right now. It's like it's one thing to say, hey, they got their hands on some serum, like a further derivative of the Winter Soldier stuff that was in Civil War. That's fine, and they're continuing to, whatever you do with. I'm not a biochemist person, but whatever is synthesized, whatever it is, right? And that's cool, but it just feels like making this serum be something that's pretty much akin to Captain America, and there's all these Captain Americas running around right now, and potential ones, and this doctor sitting there by himself, where Erskine had like an entire team,
Hmm.
right? And this doctor sitting by himself, little with his little pipette doing this thing. It just feels a little, I don't know. Like I said, it feels like it's kind of, again, undermining, and yes, that is a noisy truck if you can hear it. But it's like it's undermining Captain America's Super Soldier Serum abilities.
So let me respond to this. One of the interesting thing is that once you do it once or someone does it once, it's not too hard to replicate it because a lot of those mistakes or the challenges that initial scientists took to make this super soldier
Hmm.
serum, they don't
Hmm.
have to do that again. What was interesting is that when they met the scientists in his trailer, right, or the container, he had some serum in that lab, right? Because it was funny
Right.
because when
Hmm.
Bucky had
Right.
the gun to him, and he asked him if there's any super soldier serum, he looked at him
Hmm.
in such a way to be like, say no, or you're gonna get shot, or something's gonna happen to you.
Yeah.
Even though he ended
Yeah.
up still getting shot, right? But it's good to see that whatever was in that lab got destroyed,
Hmm.
minus the
Yeah.
20 that was stolen by the flag smashers.
Right.
What's interesting too, though, is that okay, the guy that died that was trying to delay the power broker folks or the GRC folks from actually getting to the private plane. Okay, so he got the shot, right?
Hmm.
So, and then we've seen two other people who have the shot, and then we've seen another handful of people who may have gotten the shot because they're strong too. It's funny because I haven't sat down and counted. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 17. But it also seems like there is some of the serum that hasn't been used, right?
Right.
Based on the
Hmm.
conversations that we've seen with some of the characters. So it, I think if we found another scientist has the super soldier serum, definitely I'm gonna be mad, right? Or bothered. But at this point, I'm just like, okay, let this guy be the only one. Don't tell me this thing is
Right.
sitting in a thing, and then yeah, because
Yeah.
I know we saw the past Hulk movies, and then they had Abomination and all that stuff, and I'm
Right.
just like,
Yeah.
man, is US Agent gonna be another Abomination? He's gonna have all that anger. It's like get that shot,
Yeah.
and he's gonna backfire. Who knows?
Hmm.
But I think it's gonna be an exciting ride to see his character evolve, whether it's more evil or unknown.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially if he ends up getting a shot or getting some of the serum, because that'll definitely change him. I think it'll take him to the next level and he's gonna feel unstoppable truly with his, gun
Hmm.
and shield.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. You want to go ahead and get to the big reveal?
I think you should do it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So yeah, so we're in. Man, I can't remember where they were. My mind's blanking. But anyway, they were in some. No, it was it Latvia? I think. There's
Maybe.
like a
Yeah.
place in the Baltic Sea, I think.
Mhm.
But they were in the city and they were getting ready to go to the building. Bucky's like, I'm gonna go for a walk because he sees what appears to be a little black bee, and you're like, that looks a little familiar.
Mhm.
And you see the second one, and then you're like, that looks like a Kamoy bead. And then,
Mhm.
and at that point you're going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, just we're about to see, and then
Mhm.
for me, because I'm gonna tell you what my thought process was. Oh
Yep.
my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, Wakanda, Wakanda, Wakanda. Okay, okay. It's not gonna be like anyone's like Shuri or anything like that. No, no, no. This is gonna be a Dora Milaje. It's got to be a Dora Milaje. It can't be Denai Guerrera because she too busy. So that means we're going to get Florence Kasumba up in this piece.
Mhm.
And I'm like, who, Lord, Florence Kasumba. Anyway, we're like, Florence Kasumba, she's going to show up, right? So he's like, he looks one way, doesn't see her, looks or see whoever, and looks another way, doesn't see him, looks another way, doesn't see him, and then says, I was wondering how long it's going to take you to show up. And she was like, I'm here for Zemo. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. It was Florence Kasumba. I was like, yes.
Mhm.
Uh, and the reason that stuck with me is because, or sorry, her character's name is Io, I should say.
Sure.
But we just stuck with me because that was the first Dora Milaje we saw back in Civil War,
Mhm.
where she was telling Black Widow, move or you'll be moved, right?
Mhm.
And so to see her reprise her role in Falcon Winter Soldier just keeps bringing back so many of those Winter Soldier Civil War vibes. I just so good. And so yeah, man, I was excited. I'm trying to contain the excitement I had because it was much louder than what I just said. But man, I was like, yes.
I think that's fine, right? My only issue was how is he going to convince her not to take Zemo by force, right?
Right,
Because
right.
sometimes they'll be political or they'll be pleasant at the
Hmm.
beginning, but then
Yeah.
I told you once, you know what it is. But
Yeah,
I think what was going to be interesting is to see how Bucky's relationship with Wakanda and the different folks there
exactly.
happens. And I think that's
Exactly.
exciting as well because we
Yeah.
get to see the Sharon Carter piece with the Captain America piece. And of course, this movie has two characters that's very closely aligned with him. Then we get to see the Wakanda piece with the Dora Milaje. So definitely excited for the next episode and definitely excited to really see how this conversation unwinds, especially because him
Hmm.
finding the beads, like he found one and he's moving around. He found the second one. I was just like, okay, this is interesting. And him just trying to communicate to find out where she is and just kind of have the conversation that
Hmm.
is needed to have. So
Yeah.
this was
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. And same reason that's why I'm excited to see her because I'm really interested to see how he is able to convince her not to apprehend the person who killed King T'Chaka, right?
Yeah.
You know, and really kicked off Wakanda's really involvement in the MCU.
Hmm.
Beyond just supplying vibranium back in like Avengers: Age of Ultron or whatever it was when they mentioned that. Or actually even further back in Iron Man 2 when there was a spot on the map that was highlighting Wakanda. But I'm really excited to see her be kind of, I don't know, an unwilling part of the team for maybe the next episode or two, right? Because
Yeah.
after he convinces her, or maybe she's kind of an antagonist, that'd be also a really cool thing too.
Hmm.
She's trying to stop them, and it's like, okay, we got Dora Milaje, or maybe a couple more. Who knows if she's really alone or not?
Yeah.
But trying to stop us while we're trying to stop the Super Soldier Serum from getting out, and then also we got the Flag Smashers, and then we got Zemo being Zemo because Zemo's got this he's got something going on in the background, I'm sure,
Yes.
or some ulterior motive, right? So either that possibility, which is also interesting, or her kind of teaming up to say, okay, fine, I understand the gravity of what's going on here. We'll help you, but after that, I'm gonna take Zemo in, right? Or kill him. Yeah, one of the two.
No, no worries. So one of the things here is that this is my last question for you. What do you
Yeah.
think Sharon Carter's position is here, right? Because she told Sam, give me the pardon. You think she's really
Hmm.
trying to get a pardon, or you think she's really in deep with what she's doing right now?
I honestly wondered that. I was like, why do you want to pardon? Why do you want to go back to the CIA, FBI, whatever it is you're in? You are like on the black market. You're like you're incredibly powerful here in Madripoor.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I get you can't see your family or whatever because they're constantly tailing you. Probably if you ever show up in a certain place, they'll be like, "Hey, that's Sharon Carter," on the camera
Yep.
or whatever, right? But like I don't understand why you want to get pardoned other than maybe to be able to freely travel. Maybe that's it. I don't know, but why would you want to trade in what you're doing now unless you just really hate it and you've got these high morals? Which her character did not sound like she had a lot of what's wrong? Not morals. What's wrong? I'm looking for? Like she was much of a flag waving, federal employee anymore, right? She sounded like she kind of didn't really believe in the whole system anymore, right? So I'm trying to figure out to your possibly to what your question is kind of you know uh, you know punting here is that why do you want this? What's your real role here? And it'd be very interesting if she was the power broker. To your point earlier, I know that's kind of a fan theory is that maybe she's the power broker, but I don't know. I feel like the power broker is someone who in the comics at least has brokered superpowers to people, right?
Mm.
And it just seems a little weird for me that Sharon would have that kind of access. Unless it's maybe just about the serum and that's it. And maybe they've reduced the power broker's role down to just that in the MCU. Then maybe I could see it. And it'd be a very interesting
But
angle.
but here's the thing. I think if she is truly the power broker and she was
Yeah.
trying to get the Super Soldier Serum as a means of getting her life back, right? I
Mm.
don't think the US government would refuse that. So I think that's one of those things where it's like, okay,
Hmm.
I can give it to you or I can give it to
Mm-hmm.
them, right? And of course, they're in need of a Captain America because I would assume that she's aware of that. And what made
Mm-hmm.
Captain America the Super Soldier Serum? Yes, he was, a soldier, all these things, but there's many soldiers, as you can see with the new Captain America.
Yeah.
Give him the serum. Boom.
I've been thinking about that.
So,
Wondering is he going to get the serum at some point so he could have some, some power. I don't think he's as powerful, of course, as Cap in the comics,
mhm,
but I always thought he had enhanced, strength and speed, and all the good peak human performance stuff.
mhm.
Um, yeah, man. So, question for you is, what do you think Zemo's plan is here? Like, what do you think his angle is?
I think his angle is to not go back to jail.
For sure. That's definitely priority zero.
Because when he left them and the whole container exploded and everything, I thought he was gone. I really thought he
Yeah,
was gone. Didn't figure he would be on top of the
same.
container, shooting, creating a diversion, then getting a car for them to go.
Right,
It's like,
right.
what? And the thing that I'm really afraid of for especially Sam and Bucky is that while they're on that private plane, they're having conversation in Zemo's presence,
Yep.
right? And I'm just like, this man is
Yeah,
still here. Like,
yeah,
he's listening to you guys talk. So
yeah,
they better be careful. But again, I think it's one of those situations where we've seen in various different types of series where the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or whatever the case may be, and they partner and then they separate and go their separate ways, and then they be each other's
yeah.
nuisances into the future.
For sure, man. Yeah, man. I think that's what it is too. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend right now
Mhm.
until it no longer is. So, one thing we do know, Zemo at least seems to have pretty good taste in music. So that's good.
Yes.
he likes Marvin Gaye,
Mhm.
and conveniently, I want to say I think the episode came out on Marvin Gaye's birthday
Oh,
because my Alexa was like, it's Marvin Gaye's birthday," and I was like, "Why are you telling me this, Alexa?" Right? It was like the 3rd of April. So
Mhm.
so yeah, man, that was very interesting. Nonetheless, man, any final thoughts on episode 3 of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I think for me, I'm definitely getting more excited about the series, especially coming off the slow start. which was good, right? Because again, it kind of positioned where Bucky was with therapy and Sam with his family and their growth and their
Yeah.
struggles that they're having to really see
Yeah.
this bigger threat. And even the
Hmm.
inclusion now of, members of the Dora Milaje is like, okay, this is really going to get exciting. Are we at the
Yeah.
climax? I mean, I know we're probably halfway through the series, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's going to be exciting for the next one.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially just to pick up with how are they going to get Io to not start beating everybody's behind, right? And then to your point, I'm hoping that the last couple episodes, or at least the last episode, is like 90 minutes or something like that.
Mm,
Just to be able to fully wrap up any loose ends.
yeah.
So yeah, man, awesome. Hey, folks, thank you for joining us on the Super Rock Boy videocast. Let us know in the comments what you thought of Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 3. Let us know some of your fan theories. Let us know what you're thinking is going to happen. Let us know what aspects of the series you haven't enjoyed, some that you have. And yeah, we'll be here to talk the next episode shortly. So with that, we'll see you next video.
Mhm.